Ilya Shapiro, Troy Slayton, Ron Myers, and Kelly Riddell. Troy, walk us through this. You have followed this for us the last several days. Your commentary has been spot on, and now we're all on pins and needles because the moment of truth is upon us.
You know, Charles, I hate to make a prediction because the ruling is imminent, but if I had to put some Vegas odds on it, I would guess that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is going to keep the status quo as it is right now and affirm the temporary restraining order that's in place by Judge Robart's court.
And if that's the case, Troy, though, you would disagree with that decision, though.
Oh, absolutely. I think the president is on firm constitutional and statutory grounds. I think that the executive order is absolutely constitutional. The president was in his authority with regard to national security and immigration in this context. The debate that people should be having is whether or not the executive order was good policy, not whether or not it was constitutional.
How do you get a sense of this? Because what Troy laid out essentially goes along the lines of how these judges were appointed. Two were appointed by Democratic presidents, one by a Republican president. Of course, the notion of politics seeping into our court system is massive these days, particularly with the new nominee for the Supreme Court. So how do you see it shaking out, and what role should political leanings actually play?
Well, it's not necessarily that the judges are going to be acting on their politics, but that people appointed by Republicans generally have different judicial philosophies or theories of constitutional interpretation than people appointed by Democrats. And we'll see how that shakes out. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be 2-to-1 in that direction. I actually think that the court should be more nuanced and perhaps leave in part of the order and keep the stay on other parts, because it's really still not clear to a lot of people. And the judges were probing of both sides of the different nuances of this order, which isn't just one simple sentence. There's a lot of moving parts here, and really they should send this back down to the lower court to examine that and do a more in-depth, nuanced job.
Is that part of their possibility? Could they actually take this and divvy it up into parts they all agree on and parts that they don't agree on?
They could certainly say that the stay that the district judge put in place was too broad, that he was correct in part and incorrect in part.
Kelly, this obviously is a huge barn burner issue. Talk of it ultimately becoming or reflecting a constitutional crisis. If indeed the prognosticators are correct, it's 2-to-1, and eventually lands at the Supreme Court where it could be 4-to-4.
Well, let's just be clear. This whole constitutional crisis is overblown, and you had Senator Blumenthal bring this up again today. He's mentioned it, I think, 3 times since Donald Trump has been elected to the presidency. Listen, President Trump got a first blow by the courts that happened over the weekend. He abided by the court ruling, and the stay was in place. There has been no violation of the separation of powers, and there's no constitutional crisis. The court is proceeding as it should, and then we'll see tonight whatever its ruling is going to be, and I'm sure you're going to have the administration appeal it if it's not favorable to them, but also abide by it. So I think that there's a lot of overblown hyperbole hype around this constitutional crisis thing. Actually, the Constitution is working exactly as it should.
So you would be okay then with the decision, even if it was upheld, the Washington Judge Robart's decision was upheld. You'd be fine with that, Kelly?
No, I wouldn't be fine with it, and I would hope that the Trump administration would appeal it. Listen, I think that the Trump administration is a completely unconstitutional grounds. It gives the executive office a lot of broad latitude in terms of immigration orders, especially when it comes to national security. And what was shown was a really lack of facts in all of these court proceedings, where you had Judge Robart basically saying he didn't believe the Trump administration when it said that these 7 countries posed a terrorist risk, a risk to our national security, and questioning that and saying, well, there has been any terrorists that have come from these countries. And that's not true. According to, the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee, there's actually been over 60 people that have come from these 7 countries, these terrorist countries, that have been convicted of crimes. And that doesn't even include the Ohio state stabber. So there is a clear security risk here. None of these 7 countries have functioning governments that there's no U.S. embassies there, and there's no way to even issue passports. So there can absolutely be no vetting. And I think that the Trump administration definitely did not overreach, and this would be an activist court decision if it were to be upheld.
On that note, Ron, you know, President Trump has a nominee that could maybe perhaps tilt the Supreme Court into one that believes the Constitution is not a living, evolving document that should reflect the times of the day. But a lot of folks are saying what we're seeing on display right now is the problem with the appellate level, which is permeated with the left-leaning judges who have this poetic interpretation of the Constitution that changes with popular opinion. Can anything be done about that?
Well, sure. I mean, that's why that's why many people voted to elect a Republican president no matter what, is that Trump pledged to not only nominate a Supreme Court justice, but appellate justices in the future who will have that different view. I mean, the Ninth Circuit is infamous for these types of decisions. They are infamous for these 2-to-1 liberal activist decisions. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But I think Trump is wise to abide by the decision, to respect the judiciary. And yes, he can take to Twitter all he wants, but if he's acting in a responsible way, that's really what should be the focus. And I think what would have happened had Trump actually gotten a little bit more legal counsel before writing this order, I think it would have helped make it clear that this was constitutional, that he was on firm constitutional grounds, and he wouldn't have had a lot of these hiccups. And so we have to hope going forward that President Trump will ask some of these people that he might think are in the swamp for some legal counsel and make sure this doesn't happen again.
You know, Troy, to that point, overnight, another big topic that came out was Supreme Court nominee Gorsuch coming to the defense of judges. And, you know, a lot of going back and forth on whether he was specifically talking about President Trump's tweet about so-called judges involved in this particular case or judges in general. Does that have any sway or does that have any influence on the judiciary branch and their relationship with the executive branch?
I mean, does it? Probably
yes.
Yes.
Do you think it will?
Should it? Absolutely no. I mean, it shouldn't, but judges are human beings, and they're not immune from political pressure, and they're not immune to these tweets from the president. I mean, allegedly, Judge Gorsuch said that the statement was disheartening and demoralizing. Whether he did or didn't, yeah, I mean, judges aren't going to like to hear this. Lawyers know that it's a big no-no to speak badly about a judge, especially one that's about to make a decision on a case that you're a party to. So do I think it was wise for President Trump to make those statements? No. Should it have an effect? Absolutely not.
Okay.
Will it?
Stay there, everyone.